Rolling with the triple C, I'ma make him bend the knee. Rolling with the triple C, don't really count the heat.
So what's at stake with this whole middleweight division if Khamzat beats Paulo, or if Paulo's able to beat Khamzat? There's a lot of questions. Guys, I have a theory, and I do believe when the UFC offered Plessis to fight Israel Adesanya in Sydney, you know, pretty much the African versus the African, black versus white, however it is that you guys want to see it. The simple fact that Plessis rejected the offer of the UFC and he wanted more time, which I agree with him. I am on Plessis' side. But doesn't mean the UFC is going to roll out that red carpet and say, hey, here, because you are the #1 contender, here's your title shot. No, because there's a guy by the name of Khamzat Chimaev that the people are actually betting on. There's a lot of people that are betting a lot of money on Khamzat Chimaev because he's a personality. He's an entertainer. He's able to pick people up, talk to Dana White, drop them, and then submit them. Yeah, he's had a close fight with Gilbert Burns, but other than that, look what he was able to do to Kevin Holland. He was able to say what he was going to do and choke this dude out within round 1. I mean, as a dude an entertainer, he reminds me a lot of Khabib, but just with a bigger mouth. You know what I'm saying? At least Khabib was a little more reserved in that sense, but Khamzat brings that. He brings a little bit of that playboy kind of type thing with a little bit of that honesty that he does have while he's able to actually fight. I mean, can the dude scrap? The dude can scrap. But he's also going up against a guy like Paulo Costa, the eraser. A guy that has fought Olympic silver medalist in Yoel Romero. He was actually able to defend him and not be taken down. If there's one thing I will say about Paulo Costa in those positions, right now he's training with my coach, Captain America, and they've been together for the last few months, where it's just day in, day out. We're defending these positions. You get caught in this. This is what we're doing. In other words, guys, I'm giving you guys a damn game plan. I'm giving you guys a damn game plan because if a guy like Khamzat Chimaev can't hurt Paulo Costa within 3 rounds, he could be in trouble because Paulo's going to press him. Paul's going to press him, and Paul's going to go out for broke, and Paul's going to defend him. You know, now, can Khamzat be slick enough and maybe get with the kicking? Will he be able to kick a guy like Paulo Costa? We saw with Israel Adesanya. We saw what that ended up happening when Israel Adesanya fought him in Abu Dhabi. Fake, kick, fake, kick, fake. Next you know that kick is going up top. Next you know it, Paulo's hurt, and he ended up finishing him. Does a guy like Khamzat Chimaev, does he even kick? A lot of stuff what I've seen is he'll come in, he'll break the distance, he'll penetrate, take you down, and obviously he'll do work. At middleweight, at 170 pounds, you can do that because you are a big, Khamzat Chimaev is a big 70-pounder. I don't think he could ever make that again. But now you're going up against a really big 185-pound and Paulo Costa, the eraser. The man, I think if this was a foul, I think if this fight was a 5-round fight, it'd probably go more in the benefit of a guy like Khamzat Chimaev. But for the simple fact that it's a 3-round fight against a bigger man in Paulo Costa, it almost seems like the ball's kind of rolling that way, But that being said, I do believe that the winner of this fight, and particularly if the winner is Khamzat Chimaev, he's the next guy in line. I don't think the UFC wants to do the Sean Strickland, Israel Adesanya game, because I personally do not think that Israel Adesanya has the tools to fight the style like Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland didn't do anything special. The simple things that he did is he pressed, threw straight punches, and didn't react to Israel Adesanya's fakes. He really didn't. And he was able to check some of Israel's kicks, and because of the pressure, he took away a lot of the rhythm that Israel Adesanya has. So I'm going to be the matchmaker right now. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to maybe bet my money on Khamzat Chimaev from the UFC for him to eventually fight Sean Strickland And when Khamzat Chimaev ends up beating a guy like Sean Strickland, then you know what I think they'll do? Then they'll pull out Israel Adesanya. I mean, that's just me, guys. I'm just here to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. What you got for me, Matthew?
So you just mentioned you think Khamzat would beat Sean Strickland. Do you think Paulo Costa would beat Sean Strickland as well?
Yeah, I personally think both of those guys would actually do very, very well. I think the person that could make Khamzat fight that B side more so than a guy like Paulo Costa is Khamzat Chimaev. Because if you go back and you watch Sean Strickland against Kamaru Usman, man, Kamaru Usman controlled that dude. He was able to mix his striking with his wrestling, and he was able to just pretty much outwit him, outsmart him, because of the simple fact of the different level changes. And if you watch that fight, Kamaru was able to use the level changes, boom, 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 come up top to actually hurt him. So the better matchup. The better matchup for a guy like Sean Strickland is Paulo, because Paulo's just gonna do this, and I think Sean is accustomed to that, and Sean actually has hands, man. But the guy that would make it a lot more difficult would be a guy like Khamzat Chimaev. Because you got to think about it too. I mean, does a UFC want a loud guy that just says a whole bunch of politically incorrect things? You know, he'll talk about, you know, obviously I'm cringy, I do my things, but there's things that I just don't mess with. I don't mess with race, maybe sometimes. I don't mess with genders. I mean, even though, you know, I'm gonna stick my political views to my political views, but with a guy like Sean Strickland, you gotta respect him because he speaks his mind. Does the UFC want a champion like that? I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like somebody that could potentially get the UFC or give the UFC a certain stigma. So that's kind of where I feel like I'm coming from. I wouldn't be surprised if the UFC gives Israel that matchup once again. But as of now, I can tell Dana White is changing his tunes, and I think they're gonna wait for the winner of Khamzat Chimaev and Paulo Costa. And guess what? If Israel wants to fight, Israel can actually fight du Plessis. You know, if Israel really wants to fight, so you do that, and then the winner there just waits for the winner of these two guys that are eventually going to fight. What you got for me, Matthew?
So you mentioned du Plessis versus Adesanya. Do you think du Plessis, if he gets skipped by Paulo or Khamzat, would sit out and wait for a title shot, or do you think it'd be smart for him to accept another fight?
It would be smart for du Plessis to take another fight. Because once Khamzat or Paulo, when you're looking at maybe the middle of the year, maybe we're talking about maybe February, March, April. We're talking about maybe the soonest probably April for these guys to fight. And then after that, I mean, we're looking at a whole damn year. And it's been a minute. I want to say he fought on International Fight Week. So I mean, you're talking about letting not just a year go by, but close to about a year and a half. And these are things that du Plessis needs to really like hone in and really see it the way it is. But if I'm him and you really want to fight, I think you catch Israel. I think you really do. I think you press him. I think you do the exact same thing that Sean Strickland did. The difference is you use your wrestling. Stick to the straight punches. Israel Adesanya had a really hard time, you know, trying to throw that limbo hooks. By the time that hook kind of started coming, everything was coming down the middle. You know, I didn't believe Sean Strickland. I didn't believe any of you other guys, because I'm just like, oh, this dude's he's just gonna box. He's gonna be upright. But it was able to work, and it just shows that how is it that you really have to be a well-rounded fighter where you can't just rely on this. I mean, you have to have the ability to clinch. You have to have the ability to take somebody down. You have to have an ability to be comfortable on your back if you have to. And I just don't think Israel Adesanya had those answers. I mean, right now though, but what he is leading for the middleweight division is a whole bunch of great storylines. And I think there's so many ways that you can cut it, slice it, and dice it. But I will say this: if Khamzat wins, he's next for that damn title.